Good morning, everyone. Touchnot here. I'm out back of the studios in Clanhatton Research Center. This morning, it's July the 4th, Independence Day here in the U.S. Good morning, my friends. MacGillivray month in July. So a little bit of a lazy morning. Today I'm going to read the third installment from the Minor Septs of Clanhatton by Charles Fraser Mackintosh, an 1898 edition. So this is the third reading. If you want to go back to number 1 and start, if you have not, please do that, my friends. Thank you. So this is a fragile book. It's an 1898 edition. I'm going to begin once again with this document, which is the 1664 Clanhatton Bond of Union. Some call it band, which I believe is correct. This book lists it as a bond. We, under subscript, gentlemen of the name of Clanhatton, in obedience to His Majesty's authority, in letters of concurrence granted by the Lords of His Majesty's Privy Council, in favor of Lachlan Mackintoshi of Torcastle, our chief, against Ewan Cameron of Lochiel, and certain others of the name of Clan Cameron, and for the love and favor we bear to the said Lachlan, do hereby faithfully promit and engage ourselves, every one of us for himself and those under his power, in case the prementional Evan Cameron and those of his kin, now rebels, do not agree with the said Lachlan, anent their present differs in controversies, before the 3rd day of February next ensuing, that then and in that case we shall immediately thereafter upon the said Lachlan his call rise with, fortify, concur, and assist the said Lachlan in the prosecution of the commission granted against the said Evan or Ewan to the uttermost of our power, and with all those of our respected friends, followers, and defenders, who we may stop or let, or who will anyway be counseled and advised by us to that effect. Now thereto we faithfully engage ourselves upon our reputation and credit, and the faith and truth in our bodies, by these subscribed at Kincairn, the 19th day of November, and year of God, 1660 and 4 years. Farquhar MacGillivray died about 1678. He's the main signer of this for MacGillivray, I believe. His eldest son, Alistair, died young, and by the law active management of affairs fell to the uncle Donald, though the grandfather was alive. So well known as the tutor, a man of considerable talent and business capacity. The date of Alexander's death is uncertain, but before 1658, and besides his son and successor, he had at least one daughter, Margaret, who married in 1670 a William Fraser, parent of Meckle Garth. I love my little Touchnot coffee cup. Farquhar, only son of Alistair, is first noticed in March 1658 when he gets a precept in the half of Coolake from Alexander, Earl of Moray, as heir to his father Alexander, sometime Fiar of Dunmaglass. On his marriage in 1681 with Amelia Stewart of Newtown, he settles a jointure on her, further of Westerlergs, Easter Gask, Easter Coolake. By this time, this lady, who seems to have been shrewd and sensible, her letters to Inverness merchants sometimes stipulate a good pennyworth. Very particular lady. Dunmaglass had a numerous family. Farquhar, who succeeded Captain William, Donald, Janet, Magdalene, and Anna, all married. This Dunmaglass sold half of Coolake and died early in 1714, his widow surviving until about 1730. In 1685, Farquhar is named a Commissioner of Supply by the Act of Parliament, and the district continued so disturbed after the revolution that in 1691, a Sir Hugh Campbell of Cawdor recommended 100 soldiers be stationed for a time at Drumnaglass as an convenient center. It was in this time of Farquhar styled himself Fiadak, as he was of haughty and turbulent disposition, that the question of marches at Largs with the Macintoshes arose when a witness who swore falsely for Drumnaglass, convicted of perjury on the spot, was buried alive. My goodness, the place of burial being still pointed out. Wow. Just imagine that, my friends. The darkness coming, people shoveling earth on you as you're conscious. Captain William, the second son, married a Janet McIntosh, daughter of Angus McIntosh of Kalaki. Contract dated 9th February 1714, and had a son, Lachlan of Georgia, commonly called Lachlan Leath, afterwards noticed, also a daughter, Jean Roy, whose descendants succeeded to Falais, Inverany, and Westergask. David or Donald married Miss MacGillivray of Midleys, and was father to Alexander MacGillivray of Ballantrae, whose male issues are extinct. So some of these lines just died out, unfortunately. Of Farquhar's 3 daughters, Janet became Mrs. Donald MacGillivray of Delcrombie, whose husband was killed near Leys on the afternoon of the 16th April 1746. Magdalene, afterwards Mrs. McIntosh of Holme, and Anne, Mrs. Fraser of Farline. Now we have a section of the book called A Fairy Tale, The Captain Ban. About the beginning of the 18th century, the wife of one of the tenants of Drum Algada, upon the estate of Drumnaglass, had been carried away by the fairies, and was said to have been taken by them into a small hillock in that neighborhood called Tomnashangan, or the Ants' Hill, and had been absent from her family for nearly a year. No person, however, could tell exactly where she was, although their suspicions fell upon the fairies in that she must be with them in the hill now mentioned. Several attempts were made to discover her, and none were bold enough to encounter the residence of the fairies. At last, Captain William MacGillivray, alias the Captain Ban, it's saying meaning white, Ban meaning white, according to this book, son of Farquhar MacGillivray of Drumnaglass, who was a resident at the spot, at length volunteered his services to endeavor to get the woman released from her long captivity in the Fairy Hill, if it was possible that she could be there. The captain being informed that John Dew McQueen of Pollacake was familiar and on good terms with the fairies, and that he had wax candles in which there was a particular virtue, he dispatched a messenger who got particular instructions never to look behind him until he reached home, otherwise something might happen to him, and he would lose the candle. This person heard so much noise like that of horses and carriages, accompanied with music and loud cries of catch him, at Craignawan near Moy Hall, that he was so frightened he could not help looking behind him, and although he saw nothing, he lost his candle, and then made the best of his way home. A second courier was now dispatched, who received another candle in the same injunctions. In coming through the same place as the former, he withstood all the noise he heard there, but at a place near Far, it was 10 times worse, and not being able to withstand taking a peep over his shoulder, he lost the object of his message. In this predicament, it became necessary to send a third bearer to Pollacek for another candle, which he also got, but on coming to the river Findhorn, it was so large that he could not cross, so that he was obliged to go back to the Laird of Polishek for his advice, who, upon coming down to the bank of the river, desired the man to throw a stone upon the bank of the opposite river. And no sooner was this done than, much to his astonishment, he found himself also there. He then proceeded upon his journey, and having taken a different route across the hills, even here he occasionally heard considerable noise, but he had courage never to look behind him, and accordingly he put the virtued candle into the hands of the Captain Ban. The captain, now being possessed of Polishek's wax candle, this is after 4 tries, my friends, he one evening approached the hillock, and having discovered where the entry was, he entered the passage to the fairy habitation. And passing a press in the entrance, it is said that the candle immediately lighted of its own accord, and he discovered that the good lady, the object of his mission, was busily engaged in a reel. So she's in there dancing, I believe. I guess fairies will do that to you. And upon obtaining the open air, he told her how unhappy her husband and friends were at the length of time she had been absent from them. But the woman had been so enchanted and enraptured with the society she had been in that she seemed to think she had only been absent 1 night, instead of a year from her house. When the captain brought her off with him, the fairies were so enraged that they said they would keep him in view. The woman was brought to her disconsolate husband, and the candle was faithfully preserved in the family for successive generations in order to keep off all fairies, witches, brownies, and water kelpies in all time to come. Some time afterwards, as the captain was riding home at night by the west end of Loch Duntaleg, I butchered that one, sorry, he was attacked and severely beaten by some people he could not recognize. He got home to his own house but never recovered, and it is said that the mare he rode was worse to him than even those that attacked him. So he ordered her to be shot the next day. He was granduncle to the present John Lachlan MacGillivray of Dunmaglass. The third and successful bearer of the candle was Archibald MacGillivray, alias Gillisbooglath, i.e. the swift or fast Archibald. He was granduncle to Archibald MacGillivray, now tenant in Dunmaglass. Polishek said to him that he would have preferred the captain to have sent for his fold of cattle than for the candle. The candle was in possession of some of her descendants about 30 years ago, but was afterwards taken away by some idle boys. The woman lived to such an old age that some of the people still in life remember quite well having seen her shearing the corn upon her knees in consequence of her having lost the use of the lower limbs. I'm going to stop there, folks, and we'll pick this up again. The Minor Steps of Clanhatton by Charles Fraser McIntosh. I hope you're enjoying this. Touch not this cat.